everyone, my name is Lex and welcome back to my channel. So today we're continuing on the tomato taste testing series, and it's my goal to share each of them with you, what they look like, what they taste like, and just give you an idea of what this variety is in case you're interested in growing them this year yourself. I live in Northeast Ohio, which is zone 6A, but right now it is a really hot August day and I am going to do this taste test with you. If you haven't checked out the other videos, go back and watch those as well. I go over some cherry tomato varieties I have growing and also some different paste tomatoes and slicers. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 14 different tomato varieties, all of which are just now ripening in my garden. I'm excited to try them and share with you today. Okay, so the first variety I think we're gonna try is going to be the white Tamasol. Now this is a white tomato. I'll just show you. So it's a really light, white, pale yellow tomato. Yellow tomatoes are good for is they're lower in acidity than red tomatoes. So if you are a person sensitive to high acid things, a yellow or white tomato like this might be a good choice for you. And this is a pretty good sized fruit, weighing in at 4.2 ounces, so it's a pretty decent size for a tomato. And we're just gonna cut into it. So you might notice in this video, a lot of my tomatoes are not perfect, they're not blemish free. A lot of them have some spotting going on. I do have blight ravaging through my garden, and it's at a point where I'm just letting things ripen on the vine and going from there and seeing how long they last. So let's try the white Tamasol. It definitely is lower in acid, but it's also got kind of a sour taste to it, kind of like a Sour Patch Kid. First it's sour, then it's sweet, but overall not a bad tomato. It's really nice coloring inside. Yeah, I'd grow this again. Here we have the Berkeley Tie Dye Pink. Now the Berkeley Tie Dye series, there's a pink variety, a green variety, there might be one other. And I'm growing the pink and the green in my garden, but this one is the pink. The green one hasn't quite ripened yet. And overall, it's a very pretty tomato. It's got really nice coloring. Now the plant itself hasn't been growing so great, but I think I've got about 10 tomato plants in a certain area of my garden and none of them are doing well, so I really just think it's the conditions of where they are growing is not ideal, which is why a lot of those plants just aren't doing great. You can see the inside of this tomato, very pretty, lots of coloring happening in there, dark green and pinks. I do not like the taste of this though. It's sour. It's just really sour, really watery. It doesn't have any type of sweetness to it. I'm actually pretty disappointed with this tomato. No to the Berkeley Tie Dye Pink. All right, next up, we're gonna go over the Abe Lincoln. So the Abe Lincoln is a nice big tomato. I'm really happy with the size. It's about 8.6 ounces. And I'm just cutting these open, nothing fancy. I'm sitting on the ground in my garden trying to film this before I have to go to work. So I would say this is just a very classic tasting tomato. If you think of your red tomato from your grocery store or farmer's market that you're gonna see all over the place, this is what that reminds me of. Just that very traditional tomato flavor, not overly sweet, not overly smoky. It's just kind of that in-between mild, just traditional taste. I think this would just be great on sandwiches. Overall, a pretty nice, just basic tomato. And with the size of this, I think this is a good option for your home gardener if you're just looking for a variety that is, quote, normal, but also produces some pretty large fruits. So this one is a Costa Luto Genovese. And I just love the way this one is shaped. It is so pretty. It's got the fluted edges. Just a very beautiful tomato. Now these were also grown in the section of my garden where my tomatoes are just not doing so great in general. So this one is kind of small. It's about 4 ounces. And for the purpose of making sure I had this on my taste testing video, I went ahead and picked it just a little bit early. It could have probably went another day or two to ripen up a little bit more. The bottom is nice and red, but the tops are still a little bit lighter, but it's still okay to eat. We're gonna try it. Now, like I said, I did pick this a little bit on the unripe side, so it's a little bit not as flavorful as I was hoping for. Kind of has that watery, kind of bland taste, but I think that's just me. That's the user error for just picking this early. But underneath of all that, I can tell that there's a lot of richness in with this tomato. This is an Italian variety. And I do taste a lot of those Italian notes that you would have in pasta sauces, rigatoni, and lasagna. So I am getting a lot of that like traditional Italian taste, that Italian sauce taste. So I think if I would allow these to just ripen a few days more so they're fully ripe, this would actually be a lot more richer. I would continue to grow these. I have seen where people grow these and they are massive tomatoes. So I think these are also a really great grower, big variety. It's just not growing so great in my garden this year. Something different to me. Now this is a pineapple tomato. It's a little one, but it's really cute. It's this really bright orange, really happy and fun looking, like a pineapple. I've been actually really excited to try these because a pineapple tomato just sounds like it'd be fun and delicious. The inside kind of reminds me of a yellow tomatillo. That is pretty sweet actually. It does have a lot of firmness to it. So on the inside here, it is pretty firm, but that kind of spreads outwards as well. So it's got a nice crunch to it if you're looking for kind of more of a crisp tomato. It has like this sweet, peppery kind of taste. I don't know if that makes sense, but sweet pepper, like a lemon pepper. That might be better. The sweet lemon peppery kind of taste to it. Yeah, I really like this. I think this is a really nice variety. It's got a lot of brightness. I could see this pairing really well in like a fruit salad. This is a nice tomato. I like this one a lot. This is a Black Beauty tomato. Now this is a very small Black Beauty tomato. Again, this is growing in my garden space where my tomatoes are just doing poorly in general. So this is small. I have seen where people grow these and they're really big. While this might not be the typical looking Black Beauty tomato, this is the one that I have to show you. And as gardeners, we don't always get nice, beautiful fruits. That tells me that this space behind me needs some good fertilizing for next year. Don't disappoint. That's actually really nice. I'm gonna put my knife down. This is very fruity and aromatic. It does have that hint of like smokiness, but it's not in the first bite. When I first bite it, I get this very fruity, aromatic, and then as I'm chewing it, this smoky undertone kind of comes out with this tomato. So that's a really nice tasting tomato. I enjoy this quite a bit actually. It makes sense that I like it because the indigo apples, which is in the previous video, that is one of my favorites, and this is kind of similar where it's got that, here's another one that's tiny, really dark anthocyanin purple color. And so this is really good. I don't want to stop eating it. I have all these other tomatoes here, but this one's really nice. This is the point where I start to get full off of eating all this tomatoes, feeling kind of stuffed. So it's appropriate that we talk about the Get Stuffed tomato. So it's really cool, has really nice coloring, this variegated orange and red striping, some spottage on mine here. And it isn't too big. It kind of has the shape of a bell pepper, which I think that's one of the reasons why it's called Get Stuffed, because this would be a good stuffing tomato. Any tomato has these cavities, but this one has some deep cavities. So if I got all the gel out of there, this could make for a nice tomato to stuff with some Italian sausage or chicken or whatever you want to put in a tomato. Maybe like ricotta cheese. Fill it with ricotta cheese. That would be good. Oh yeah. Cutting a slice off, you can kind of get even more. So I'm not crazy about the flavor. First impression, it's not overly exciting, kind of plain. As I kind of let it sit on my tongue for a minute, some more richness does come out, but on first taste it's just kind of but then it seems to take a moment to just develop a little while. It is an interesting tomato. The concept of stuffing a tomato is interesting. I would probably grow this again just because they look pretty cool. Just try stuffing them and seeing how that goes. I mean, this is really beautiful. So now we're gonna go and do the dr.wyches, the big orange tomato. This one is huge. I mean, in the palm of my hand, it fills it. It's coming in at 14 ounces, so just under a pound. And I have been looking forward to trying this because I've heard great things about the dr.wyches. Heard it pronounced different ways. Wow, look at that. This is super like meaty. I mean, there's like some gel pocket in here, but this is just like all meat. Here we go. Okay, after I bite into it, there is quite a bit of juice here. I guess I just hadn't gotten into it far enough yet. This is really tasty. It is really sweet. Kind of reminds me of orange juice. I've heard that this is a good breakfast tomato, and I can see why. It is very sweet. This is not a tomato that someone would eat and be like, oh, that's a vegetable. Tomatoes are vegetables. Like, they would say, oh, this is a fruit because it tastes very fruity, very aromatic, very bright, and it is actually pretty juicy. But this is very good. The dr.wyches is a thumbs up from me.
So next up we have the Triplicate crop tomato.
Have a lot of this cracking going on because we've had some back and forth weather, extreme heat to weeks of rain, back to extreme heat. So the fruits have struggled a little bit keeping up with all of that. Really pretty inside here. That's actually really good. I was expecting to just kind of be like, you know, regular old tomato, but this one actually is very flavorful. I actually prefer this taste to, I think it was the Abe Lincoln that I said was a, you know, your average tomato for your home garden. But I prefer this actually over that one more. This has a lot of richer flavor in it that kind of gives it, like, this is a dinner tomato. Kind of, again, saucy undertones. And I know I keep like relating tomatoes to tomato sauce, but I think for most people that are used to having tomato sauce, knowing what kind of tomatoes taste like tomato sauce without extra flavors and spices and herbs all on it. I mean, this is just the tomato itself. I'm just feeling like I'm eating some spaghetti right now. I really like this one. I'm gonna grow this one again. Here we have the Moon Glow tomato. So this one is like such a deep orange. It is really interesting looking, very cool. And I'm most excited about the really dark orange coloring on this tomato. Kind of looks like a nectarine in size. Let's see how it tastes. Really nice looking on the inside. This is actually really good. This is kind of like the dr.wyches. Not as sweet, but it is still pretty sweet. Another probably going for breakfast tomatoes. I guess, I mean, I'm seeing here that the orange varieties are really nice, sweet, breakfasty kind of tomatoes. Very good. I would grow this again. Tasty. Yeah, definitely feeling like lots of little sugar receptors on my tongue perking up. So this one is a Siberian. It's pretty small. Again, not great section of where they're planted. Overall, it's okay. Kind of, again, just like a basic tomato flavor. Nothing like super special or fancy. Nothing that I really dislike about it. It's just kind of in between. For just a normal red tomato, this could be a good choice. It is on the kind of the smaller side. Could be my garden, but it could just be the variety too. Overall, not bad. And the last one for today is this big one. So this is a German pink tomato, and it is big. I have been picking massive fruits off of this plant. So big, really nice shape. This one is just under 13 ounces, so it's a really nice size. Nice looking inside here. Here we go. This is a nice tasting tomato. It does feel kind of like a brighter taste, fruity again. Not very rich, but that's okay. I mean, this is a pink tomato, so I'm not really expecting it to have that rich kind of smoky flavor like some of the other more pink tomatoes that I've tried. Kind of reminds me of watermelon, more flavorful than a watermelon. But yeah, if a watermelon and a tomato had a baby, the taste of what that would be. But overall, pretty good. For the size of them, I would consider growing this one again. Not overly excited about the taste, but they are really big. And if you're feeding a lot of people, this could be a good option since it is just a big tomato. Okay, and that does it. Tomato varieties today, taste testing them. I am full. Feeling good though about getting the chance to actually try each one individually and getting some differences and finding out what I like versus what I don't like so much. Creating that list for myself for what I want to grow in future years and be able to dedicate more space in my garden for those varieties that I really just like. It's fun to grow a garden for beauty, but it's also fun to grow a garden for fresh eating. So grow things that you like, and if you don't know what you like, obviously experiment, try things out. I'm hopeful that this video series is serving you well and giving you some ideas into different tomato varieties and what you might want to grow in your own gardens. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching all 4 of these taste testing videos. So interested to hear what everyone else thinks of these tomato varieties that I grew this year and have covered in this 4-part video series. I will give some honorable mentions to 8 different tomato varieties that did not make it into the video series. I did grow them, however, they were either late bloomers and I didn't get a ripe fruit until at the very end of the season, or frankly, I just never recorded myself trying them. So we have the Berkeley Tie Dye Green, which is very similar to the Berkeley Tie Dye Pink. I wasn't really a fan of that one either. It wasn't too special for me and I probably wouldn't grow that one again. The Purple Tomatillo, very similar to the yellow tomatillo, except it's purple. That one took a really long time to ripen. It was just before we got our first frost when they started to get ripe. So I think with that one, the purple varieties especially needs just a longer growing season, and it just didn't do as well as the yellow one did as far as productivity. The plant was really big and it grew well, but the fruits on it, they just weren't ripening at the rate of everything else. Next is the big rainbow tomato. So this one I've actually grew in my 2020 garden and I didn't get any fruits off that plant this year. Again, I had this one section where I was growing tomatoes and it just wasn't a very good area of soil. I was lacking in some kind of nutrients over there. So a lot of my tomato plants in that one area just didn't do very well and the big rainbow was affected. However, I did grow it in 2020 and it was a very prolific plant that year. I did get some really big 1 pound plus tomatoes of the big rainbow. That one super juicy, very good flavor. I would grow that one again and just make sure that my soil conditions are a little bit better. And there's the Brandywine Pink. I actually never got anything off that plant, so I wasn't able to try the Brandywine Pink, which stinks, but I'll probably try that one again next year to see if I can grow it. Same with the Principe Borgehese. That one I started from seed, and as I'm going through my notes and all the tomatoes that I grew this year, realized that that one actually never made it from a seedling. So the seeds were started with everything else, however that one just never came up, so that one actually didn't make it into my garden this year. And then I have the Roma. The one that I reviewed in the video was the San Marzano Lungo number 2, but I also grew the Roma, which is just a very slight different variety. I didn't review that one specifically because I did go over the San Marzano Lungo number 2, and I didn't really have any difference in comparison for those two. And then the last one was the White Wonder tomato. I only got like 2 or 3 fruits off my plant from that one, and that one also was a very late harvest for me. I think it was probably sometime mid to end September when those fruits were just ripening. And so I did really enjoy the flavor of the White Wonder. I definitely grow it again. I actually saved some seeds from that one to grow next year and get a head start on those because that is a plant that I think I put in the ground a little bit later than everything else. That just could be why I didn't get my fruits until later on. So coming out of the 2021 gardening season, my top 5 tomato varieties from this year's garden
is number 5, the Jersey Devil tomato. Number 4, the Bumblebee Cherry. Number 3, the Trip L crop. Number 2, the dr.wyches. And last but not least, can you guess it? Number 1, the Indigo Apple. So I hope you all had as much fun as I did going through this tomato variety video series. We went over the 40 varieties that were successful in my garden this year. And now what's next? So we're coming into January in just a week, and I am super excited because for me, January is a month of garden planning. I am already starting to dream up ideas of how I want my garden layout to be next year. And I'm thinking through, what do I want to grow? Of all these tomato varieties that I did this year, which ones am I gonna grow again? I'm gonna use this series as a reference tool for myself to remember what did I like and what did I not like so much, because I want to really focus on just growing the kinds of food that my family loves and that we're going to eat and really enjoy versus a huge variety of plants. And with that, I am super interested to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite tomato varieties? Something that I haven't covered in this video series. What do you suggest that I grow that, based on my taste preferences that you've seen, that I might like to grow in my garden next year? I would love to hear. Please add that into your comments below. And who knows, we may be growing that this year and showing it in a future video. Please remember to like this video and go back and watch video parts 1, 2, and 3 to see all of the amazing tomatoes that we talked about. Again, I'd love to hear from you, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. New year, new gardening season. There's so much that's going to be happening in just a few months before we know it. So I love to have you along for this journey with me. So make sure you do something you love today, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
That doesn't sound good.
Chicky?
I think that was one of my chickens that I think is a rooster, and it's learning how to crow. They're about 16 weeks. I didn't know what that sound was. I think it was a rooster trying to crow though.